Good day, everyone. This is Bob Tarter with Animalogy. I'm very sad that I don't get to see you personally here at our Williamson County Public Libraries for the summer reading program. This year it's called Imagine Your Story. Now, what we're able to do is we're able to pre-record and have videos. So I have wonderful guests that are all from different books. And Miss Stephanie and I are talking about what books will be available by your public library so that you'll be able to read more about these animals in either their story or their natural lives. So the first one we're going to get out today is a special little girl that is from a wonderful story about a pig. And our first little animal today is our sweet little Rose. Rose here is a Chilean rose-haired tarantula. And one thing that I always like to teach about that is when people have a fear of spiders, that's arachnophobia, but you can have other arachnids that aren't spiders. Now, the Chilean rose-haired tarantula is going to be found in South America. This is one of our favorite creatures because they eat a lot of pests. People are scared of spiders, and they shouldn't be, because these animals here are just here living naturally in our world, and they keep a lot of pests. Now, what is special about our tarantula, whenever we get them out, I want to talk. We're going to start here on the back left and count her legs. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's where, what kind of special spider did I have that has extra legs? What is purpose about that is these two shorter legs here in the front are actually modified mouth parts. And that's where in the desert Southwest you can find tarantulas, vinegaroons, and scorpions. These are all arachnids, but every one of them has a specific job to do, and that is called niche. And that's where they can live in the same area, but they will not compete directly with each other because each one of them has a different shape. The pinchers on a tarantula are these little legs here. On the scorpion, that's what grabs a hold of it. And on a vinegaroon, it is actually a blind arachnid that uses 6 legs for walking around, and the 2 front legs are actually used to feel for us. And those arachnids are easy to be kept in captivity. They're going to do a good job at keeping our pest populations in check. You can see the middle part of her body has that little rose color to her, hence the name of the Chilean rose-haired tarantula. The hairs on her body are going to help her feel something coming around her, because this is going to be one of our animals that'll be nocturnal. So she's going to be hunting at nighttime, and even though she has decent vision, the air movement of something coming around, she can feel it with those hairs to be alerted of a predator around for us. Now, she will shed her exoskeleton. The middle part of the body will pop open. She will climb out of that and continue to grow over her lifespan for us. Now, Chilean rose-haired tarantula, we've got several good children's books. One of my favorites always with spiders is Charlotte's Web. So that'll be one that we could check out for your curbside. Now, the next animal is going to be one of our creatures that is a little bit more charismatic for those of you that are a little nervous so far. And this one is famous because of current movies, but I like him because of Miss Jan Brett's. This one right here, I'd like you all to meet Molly. Molly here is an African pygmy hedgehog. Now, the way she protects herself is these hairs here, they feel just like toothpicks. You can see they don't hurt. It's a little sharp, but they don't stick to my skin. They don't come out like the quills of a porcupine. If she gets scared or nervous, she curls into this little bitty ball. But Molly loves to do her yoga during our programming for us. Now, this is, again, one of our creatures that eats only other animals. This is a carnivore. But when we think about her, is she going to be able to run down and eat something like a deer or a rabbit? No. She has to eat things she can catch, which will be bugs. Beetles, snails, slugs, and grubs. The bigger, the juicier, the slimier, the better. Now, where she lives, the African pygmy hedgehog is actually a mixture of the wild ones. This is a product of the Roman Empire. Hedgehogs are naturally found living throughout Europe, Asia, all the way down into Africa, and there's African species of hedgehogs that get to be 20 pounds. But when they get nervous, they curl in that little bitty ball, and the hairs will stick out. Again, like our tarantula, this is one that is a nocturnal creature. You can see she has a good sense of smell. Her nose is always running. Good ears, and those whiskers are going to help her. She'll have her head down, rooting through the soil, and she'll be looking for bugs and beetles and earthworms. And the whiskers can help her feel something that she may not be able to see or hear for us. Now, the hair off of these was used for multiple purposes. The Romans would have this as a food source. The hair was used to make everything from cardstock to animal training, but the Roman army, this is something that they would collect while they traveled throughout the entire Roman Empire, which is why this is a hybrid species. That means it's a mixture of all the wild ones with mankind's breeding involved. Now, these make good classroom household pets, lifespan in captivity, 3 to 5 years. I have had some live over 8. She has that soft little belly and that cute little tail. Now, we're starting to lose hedgehogs in the wild because of the way we live. We need to live better with it. This is what we would call a sight indicator. This is an animal that if we live well with our natural world, they'll do fine. The overuse of pesticides, habitat fragmentation, degradation, and loss, hedgehogs are starting to vanish. And that's where in England they're implementing programs to help that out. Because you didn't think anything of it, but if we started losing squirrels, that would be an indicator that something is not right out there. So in captivity, she eats a diet of dehydrated earthworms, crickets, and superworms, and she has a good wide variety of fruits and vegetables. That's going to help her keep healthy for us. So African pygmy hedgehog, Molly. Jan Brett has several children's books where these animals will be illustrated. But again, they will make good pets. Sometimes I have animals that I don't recommend for pets for people. Now we're going to change gears now and get out a different type of consumer. And when we look at this one here, I want you all to meet Larry. Say hi, Larry. Now, what is special about Larry that I grabbed him today, as you can see, he's shedding his skin right now. Now, humans, we are always shedding our skin, and we don't really see it, but most of the dust in your home is your human skin. Well, Larry has it come off in big chunks here because as he is growing, he has to get a new layer of skin underneath of it for us. Now, remember, we've been thinking about how the animals live in the wild, their niche, their job. When you look at Larry, you can see his eyeballs are on the sides of his head. When you looked at the tarantula and the hedgehog, their eyes were close to the front because they're looking for, Larry, stay awake. They're looking for food. But what makes Larry different from us, if you take 2 fingers and you touch your skin, we're warm. We're warm-blooded animals. When we feel Larry here, Larry is cold. So the warmer he is, the faster he moves, the more food he can eat. Now, iguanas, we have multiple species all throughout our planet. These are exotic invasives in the state of Florida. And that's because people have had them for pets and turned them loose. And these animals escaped when hurricanes knocked down warehouses. Now, as an herbivore, that's our consumer that eats only plant material, they are damaging. In Florida, they're eating the flowers of endangered plants. And if you eat the flower off of a plant, it will not make fruit. Without fruit, we will not have seeds. Now, one of the cool animal adaptations about Larry is right here on the top of his head, right in front of my finger. You can see that little circle. That is actually a third eye on the top of his head. Because as a cold-blooded animal, Larry's going to wake up in the morning and sit in the sun and warm up his body. And then he's going to climb around the rainforest and eat the edible plant parts. And then once he has a full stomach, he's going to go and get as high as he can where he's going to get direct sunlight. And you can see when Larry gets a little tired here, oh, don't be grumpy. Because when we cover that up, he thinks it's nighttime and he just falls right to sleep. Because that light sensing organ on the top of the head will alert him if a predator flies over the top of him. Larry, there you go. We just cover up that light sensing organ and he goes right back to sleep because his body is mistaken and thinks it's nighttime. And he also has the large flap of skin right here, and that's going to make him look bigger. And he'll throw that out and get the attention of females with that and intimidate other males. And that little circle right there is called ocelus. That's when an animal has the body marking to look like the eye of a larger predator. Because what Larry's going to be doing, imagine this scenario. He's got a belly full of vegetation. He's high in the tree canopy, direct solar radiation. Predator flies over the top of the head, he's going to be alerted by the third eye. If a predator comes here to the side, when they see that little circle, when they get close enough to see that, they think, wait, am I hunting Larry? Or is somebody bigger hunting me? And when that predator pauses, that's when Larry will make his escape. he can be 100 feet in the tree canopy and he'll jump out of the tree and fall to the ground. These long fingers and toes of his will grab at the vegetation as they fall down through the tree canopy, and he'll be able to slow his descent like that. They usually belly flop into the water, and they swim amazingly well because of this long tail right here. Now, if you've been watching and if you've seen Larry before, I always hold on to the abdomen. I don't hold on to his tail. Larry's one of our lizards that if he gets scared, agitated, or nervous, he can senesce his tail, meaning the tail falls off. And if the tail falls off, it's no longer connected to that central nervous system. It's going to sit here on the floor, thwacking around everywhere, squirting blood. And that's going to get the attention of the predator, and Larry then will be able to run off. And when he runs off, he can regenerate this tissue. Now, we can't pull your arm off. You can't grow a new one. But these lizards have the ability to regenerate that tissue. Now, classroom household pet, I do not recommend the iguanas. And like I said, there's multiple species of iguanas. These animals get too big and can live too long for most people. We're actually Larry's second home, and it could easily be third or fourth for us. He was donated to us by a family that couldn't take care of him properly anymore, and he actually has a degenerative disease, which is nice because it deals with his tail. This tail right here has a ridge that if you run your finger against it, it would cut my finger and I would start bleeding. Larry cannot use his tail. Normal iguanas, when they get agitated, will smack with the tail, where he cannot do that. But he does very well as a programming animal for us. The large flap of skin, the dewlap. Oceellus is the body marking that looks like the eye of a larger predator. When we think of other animals that can have that, you can see that on Oscar fish, redfish, peacock bass. You can see it on moths and butterflies. They're looking like something else. The third eye on the top of the head, this is our herbivore, and he's our cold-blooded creature today for us. So the warmer I get, I start sweating. Now, these guys here, the warmer he is, the faster he's going to be able to move, and the faster he's going to be able to eat. Now, when they get warm, they can handle temperatures a lot better than us. Now, the next one is going to be another type of lizard, but we're going to use our observation skills and realize that it is a different consumer here. With this one here, I want you all to meet Randy. Randy is a Gila Monster. Now, you've seen me before. You know one of my biggest pet peeves. Venom is when something is injected into your body. Poison is when you ingest something bad in your body. There is no such thing as a poisonous snake. This is a venomous lizard, though. And that's how we can tell he's our carnivore compared to Larry. Because when we look, his eyes are closer to the front part of the head. You can see him sticking out his tongue. Why is he sticking out his tongue? He's tasting the air. He's not smelling. That's another one that gets me. Snakes and carnivorous lizards are tasting the air with their tongue. They have nostrils. They can smell, but they can also taste with it. They take that forked tongue, they flip it through the air, where they then pull it to the inside of their body. Once it's on the inside of their body, there's a hole in the roof of their mouth called the Jacobson's organ, and he sticks it right in there. It's right below the brain, and that's how he's going to process that. Now, with this guy here, you can see he's got a very strong, brightly colored body pattern to him here. That is a warning for you to not aggravate him. Brightly colored creatures that are not afraid of you, you should not be trying to aggravate. They have a way to protect themselves. Now, the venom off of our Gila Monster is actually a very helpful thing for us. The things that we can use our animals for, the venom is a coagulating one. Now, when you think of venomous snakes around here, their venom is actually going to shut down the nervous system of their prey. They don't want to use any of it on you. You're not going to be able to be food for them. But what it's going to do is it's going to stop something like a mouse from running away. It stops the muscles from being able to react. Or sometimes it stops the animal from being able to breathe, and then it gets its meal. This venom here is a coagulating one. It clots blood. And this lower jaw right here, the mandible, there's glands underneath of it, and that's where the venom comes from. And these animals bite and hold onto it. And then they use the capillary action of water. Water likes to touch itself. Think about when you take a shower, you can see the water stuck on the shower curtain. That's the capillary action of water and adhesion and cohesion. It likes to touch itself and touch other things. So when they bite into it, they use the properties of water, and the venom actually leaches up into that animal. And it will actually close and turn the blood into jello. And if your blood isn't allowed to pump around your body, they'll be able to go and have their dinner there. Now, one of the cool animal adaptations of this one is his tail. Now, his tail's not going to come off like Larry, but you can see how it looks and it feels just like a bratwurst. It's the greatest way to describe it. The skin here is not going to allow water to leave their body because as a desert animal, they are very concerned about losing water. So this has like a casing on it and it feels squishy because that is full of fat and water. Because if you live in a desert, you never know when your next meal is going to come. And the Gila Monster quite regularly will only get to eat about 2 weeks out of the year. Because in the springtime, when all of our ground nesting animals are having their young or they're having their babies in nests, that's when these guys will walk around, very slow moving creature, and he'll follow his sense of taste and he'll find a ground nesting creature. And because he's a brightly colored, kind of scary looking animal, the parents will abandon the nest. And that's fine. The parents will make another nest. It's called renesting, where this guy then will go and he'll eat all the eggs and all the babies in that nest. And he converts that all to fat and stores it in that tail. Because as a cold-blooded animal, the warmer he is, the faster he can move, the more food he's able to eat. So if there is a very lean year in the desert, he may not eat very much and he'll just spend most of his time underneath of the rocks, hitting out of the sunlight. But if there's a lot of food, he'll eat as much as he can, be very warm and sit out in the sun so that he has a chance of passing on his line. Again, very slow, easygoing animal, but that sense of smell and that sense of taste, even vision, he'll be able to find his food, and those ears right there, those little holes. But I wish you could feel it. It feels like a brand new basketball. It has these little beads to them. Now, venomous lizard. This is the Gila Monster. They're very special, not something that most people should have as a pet. Now, staying with our Western North American animal setup right now, the next ones we're going to get out are very charismatic for you. Now, with these animals here, I want you to be able to see the best you can, so I'm going to walk around, but I do have to be careful that they do not eat the microphone. They love to play with parts of my uniform for us. Come on, girls. I know. This one right here, I'd like you all to meet Tracy. Say hi, Tracy. Now, one of the cool books about prairie dogs, because this is our black-tailed prairie dog right here. There's a very good children's story about a tennis ball that falls into the prairie dog home. Because prairie dogs are sociable creatures. Prairie dogs are naturally found all throughout Western North America. They were as far east as Arkansas, all the way to California, down into Mexico, up into Canada. But these little guys here are now only found in 4% of their natural historic range. And that's sad because they help us out. One prairie dog living by themselves isn't going to have a possibility of making it. They have to live in those large prairie dog towns. Now, the first time I found a prairie dog town, I was hiking through the desert badlands of North Dakota. I came up out of a drainage and got on the flat part of the ground. I'd been hiking all day and I hadn't seen more than 3 different lizards. And all of a sudden I walked into a prairie dog town and it was full of life. There was short, tender green grass to the horizon and holes where these rodents were running around. These prairie dog towns will actually manipulate the vegetation. When you're this big, there's lots of things that are going to eat you. So if you keep the grass short and tender, you'll be able to see farther. So when you come out of your home, your hole, you can see if a predator's around. And these guys here will communicate with all different types of barks and whistles, letting everybody know if there's something like a hawk flying overhead or even a rattlesnake on the ground. They have different warning signs for all that. Now, these prairie dog towns are everything they need to survive is going to be buried underneath the surface. And on the top, they mow the grass. Everything from bedrooms, bathrooms, food storage, nurseries, lookout towers, and food storage. But what they do is these animals will change the habitat and everybody else benefits from it. Because if you keep the grass short and tender, all the other herbivores are going to be coming into the area. So you can find everything. When that first prairie dog town, I walked into it, I found prairie dogs, jackrabbits, antelope, deer, all the way up to 3,000-pound bison. All of them were living near that prairie dog town, feeding on the tender green grass. And our prairie dogs like that because the prairie dogs need help. When you're this big, lots of things are going to eat you. But if your best friend is a 2,000-pound bison bull that's 6.5 foot tall, you're not worried about a coyote anymore. So everybody benefits from it, and that's why we call this the keystone species. When you think of an archway, the center stone in the top of it is called the keystone. It holds the whole thing together. And that's where these keystone animals, even though they're thought of as a nuisance, hush, hush, I know. You want to go talk to your sister? The prairie dogs have been removed because people thought they were bad. Because when we brought our domesticated livestock and we turned them loose in the prairie dog towns, they'll go running through it and they can fall in a hole. And when they fall in a hole, they'll break their leg. So these animals have been shot, trapped, poisoned, removed only 4% of their natural historic range. And that's sad because these creatures help us out. Even farther away, prairie dogs help humans. In the desert, like we said with our Gila Monster, Randy, you never know when it's going to rain. And sometimes it rains a lot very quickly. And in the desert, without the soil and the vegetation we have, the water runs, it erodes, it takes what the soil is away. It's called flash floods. But when you have a prairie dog town and it rains, the water actually runs right into the tunnels. These guys build it to handle it. The water will run into the tunnel and soak into the groundwater slowly. This keeps water quality good in the rivers and streams without the runoff. And these underground aquifers are getting recharged by prairie dog towns. We've proven this by radioisotopes. When we have a prairie dog town in Montana, someone in Arizona can get their well water because of these little prairie dogs. That's what's special about them. Definitely a ground-dwelling creature, the small, short ears, good hands for digging in those burrows, and that short black tip of the tail. Black-tailed prairie dogs, one of our amazing American Western species. I know. Go talk to your sister now. I know. All right. Now, with the next animal, I have to wear a glove. And again, if Bob wears a glove, that means Bob can get hurt. Bob doesn't like to get hurt. But this is one for the safety of me. I have to wear a little bit of an extra layer of protection. Not because this animal means to harm me. It's just the way he's built for this. There you go. Hush, hush. I know. It's been a long time since you've had to do a program. I'd like you all to meet Billy. Billy is our straw-colored fruit bat. And one of the best children's stories about this is Stella Luna for us. And that's what makes this such an interesting little creature. Now, the flying foxes, because he looks a lot like that. Remember that niche or that job? But look at the way he's built. Large nose gives him that good sense of smell. Large eyes to be able to see well as he's flying around at nighttime. But you watch his ears. His ears are always listening too. Bats are very sociable, so they like to be around their own kind, and his ears will let him know. Now, the straw-colored fruit bat is special because they are going to be that herbivore again. Remember, eating only plant material. Now, we have lots of different species of bats here in Tennessee. We have 14 species of bats, but they're not going to look as big as Billy here. Billy here has almost a 3-foot wingspan when he fully extends it. Our biggest bat is only going to have a little bit over a foot, about 14 inches. But our bats are not going to eat fruit like Billy. Our bats are eating bugs, and only bugs. And when you eat a diet of only bugs, you're going to be an insectivore. Now, our bats are not going to have this big, cute face. They don't have that cute dog-like nose because you cannot smell a mosquito. They don't have these big eyes because it doesn't matter how good your eyesight is. And bats have good nighttime vision, but they're not going to be able to see a mosquito that's black flying around dark as night. So our bats actually have ears that'll be bigger than Billy's here. And they'll send out loud, high-frequency vocalizations, and that's called echolocation. They send it out, and then they can hear, and then they can track down and eat it. Now, as the bat is our only true flying mammal, we got gliders. They have to eat a lot of food because they have a very high metabolic rate. Bats have to eat about 2 to 2.5 times their body weight in food every night. So imagine if I was a bat, I'd have to eat 500 pounds of watermelon in one night. And if I eat 500 pounds of watermelon one night, am I going to be going to the bathroom a lot? Yep. And that's what's funny about our bats, is you like bat droppings. It is guano. Now, the cool thing about our fruit bat, guano, is it'll be full of seeds. And there are lots of seeds for our rainforest plants that cannot even germinate unless they go through the digestive tract of something. They have to warm up and have somebody eat them and poop it out. Now, the bats are also very important for pollinating flowers. Over 20,000 different species of plants are pollinated by our bats. Now, a lot of the fruit in the rainforest is only made possible because the bats will be flying around and they pollinate the flowers. That keeps up the biodiversity and helps our plants have that wonderful way. You can see from his breathing, he breathes very fast. He's a little nervous. Like I said, we've all been not doing well on the quarantine and been a little bored, and he hasn't had to come out and do programs for anybody. I know. But this little guy here eats a half an apple, a banana, a pile of kale about the size of my fist, and sweet potato almost every night. And we have 2 of them, and they're very, very good at eating and making lots of that guano. Because when you eat all that fruit, you're gonna go to the bathroom, so we have to clean it up. The wonderful straw colored to his throat patch, where we get that name, the straw colored fruit bat for us. Stella Luna is probably my favorite, most notable bat story, but there are lots of other bats to learn from. The bat is the only true flying mammal. Now, Billy, unfortunately here, he actually fractured his arm a couple years ago, and he's not able to fly anymore, which is why he has a good life of living with me. If he lived out in the wild, he wouldn't be able to make it. But our bats here are gonna be only insectivores. But when we think about it, the bat is the most numerous type of mammal. We have more bats than we have of anything else on our planet. And with that, we have bats on every continent except Antarctica. So we have bats that are going to be eating bugs. Those are the insectivore ones that we have here. You just met an herbivorous bat eating only plant material. We have some that eat fish, some that eat frogs. Do we have vampire bats on our planet? Yes. Now, the vampire bat is not going to hurt you. They don't want to eat you. There's no point to them. But they are actually one of our microbats, so they're not very big. But what has helped them out, like the Gila monsters, our wildlife can give us advancements. The saliva from a vampire bat has an anticoagulant agent in it, unlike the Gila monster, where the venom there had a coagulating agent in it. And both of them has helped us out. Some of you may be watching today, some of the diabetes medication that you may be on is actually using those 2 different types of saliva or the venom to help keep your blood sugar balanced. We have everything from battlefield dressings from the Gila monster to where if someone is bleeding out, you can cover them up and it clots the blood for us. And that's where the saliva from the vampire bat is helping people live better lives. With certain diseases, it'll slow down the aging and the mental problems with our Alzheimer's victims for us. So our wildlife is amazing for us. The vampire bat's not a very big bat, and in taste tests, they prefer the taste of cows, horses, and goat's blood over humans. So if you go backpacking in Nicaragua, just take a goat with you. I wouldn't worry about it. It's just about a tablespoon of blood. You'll be fine. I have plenty on me. But when we think about that, I want you to understand that was a cute bat. Most of our bats are not very cute, but they're important because they're keeping pest populations down. Like we were talking about with the tarantulas. We want things to eat those bugs and mosquitoes. Now, with our last one today, I want you to meet a good girl. But again, Bob's wearing a glove. When Bob wears a glove, that means Bob could get hurt. I don't like to get hurt. It'll take me a minute to get her out. Up. Good girl. I know. I'd like you all to meet Elle. And when we look at Elle here, if any of you have gotten into Stranger Things, her nickname is 11. That's what's special about the Eurasian Eagle Owl. Looks very similar to our great horned owl. Same genus, just different species though. And that's what's unique about her. When you look at the eye, the colored part of your eye is called the iris. And when we look at hers, it's a little bit more orange yellow than yellow with our great horned owl. Our great horned owls are going to have yellow, whereas hers is an orange yellow. Other than that, she looks almost identical, except she's just bigger. This is the largest owl species on the planet. The Eurasian Eagle Owl is found living in England, east all the way through Europe, through Asia, all the way to the Pacific Ocean, up into Siberia, all the way down to the Middle East and India. It is a very widely distributed owl. There's actually 7 different subspecies because there's such different habitats in that whole range. There are very thick, dark forests in Russia, so they'll be smaller and darker, and then all the way to the deserts of the Southeast Asia. They'll be lighter and taller and leaner for us. Now, we've been talking about animal senses in today's program for us, and she has great eyesight. But if you watch, you can take your finger and follow it around. You can move your eyes up, down, left, right. When I look at Elle here, her eyes will never move because there's no muscles to move it. Muscle is the densest part of your body. Now, this is a big owl, but when you look at her, her eyes are the size of mine, and I weigh almost 200 pounds. The quarantine 15 is not helping me. But with her eyes will never move. So instead, the owls have flexible necks. And with that, can an owl spin their head all the way around? No, it can't do that. It'll pop off. Don't believe me? Try it on a chicken. But what we have right here is she has more vertebrae in her neck than we do. Now, we have 7 vertebrae in our neck, where this animal here has 14. And having flexible muscles can give her the ability to rotate her head over 210 degrees each way. She cannot spin it all the way around. She can look all the way behind her and a little bit more, but she cannot spin it all the way around. And she can do this being efficient. As a flying animal, weight is your enemy. And with our owl here, she looks a lot bigger than what she really is. Now, Elle is one of our flying birds, so at home we fly her around and I keep an eye on her weight. This animal here is only 5.5 pounds right now. 5.5 pounds with a 6-foot wingspan makes her a powerful animal. But when we think about it, a lot of people think birds are a lot heavier. This is nothing but feathers. I'm not even touching her skin yet. She has feathers covering her whole body. And these feathers not only help her have mimicry of blending into the background, but she will sit very still in the darkness of night. And you can see how she's just moving her head around. These tufts here, those are just feathers. They make her look big and mean and scaring people. The best sense on our owl is this little shape right there, that little crescent shape. Now, I've got big ears on the side of my head. I can hear my voice, the animals digging around the cages. There's a little echo in the room here. Elle is not. Elle can only hear where she's looking. Now she's trying to think if she could eat one of the prairie dogs. Turn back around. What she'll do is, you watch owls, they do that head bob dance. There's one ear hole high and one ear hole low right here by this beak. And these feathers here are going to be like satellite dishes. Your satellite dish sits and talks to something orbiting our planet so you can get television. What she's going to do is she's going to be able to sit very still. In the darkness of a night, she can hear something as small as a mouse breathe at over 100 yards away. And she just waits for that prey to make a mistake, because every other feather is just flat and camouflage. And as soon as that prey breaks the cover, she'll fly under full power, beating these wings all the way to getting these talons into that animal. Now, owls have very long legs. I know, I'm trying to show your legs. And they have long legs to be able to reach out and grab something. The wings will power her all the way towards that prey, and then the feet grab a hold of it. And with that, she'll have her feet and talons in the prey before they ever even know what is happening. And fly silently. Now, the owl is supposed to be a wise old bird, and I love working with this one. But you got to be honest with you. This is not that smart of an animal. She's very good at one thing, and that thing is killing. And our great horned owls here in Tennessee are one of the greatest predators we have, and people never know because they're silent like a ninja. If you've lost small cats and dogs, one of the likely things may be our owls. And that's what's special about them. We have to live well with our nature here. So she has wonderful vision, but her eyes will not move. When you think about that nose, that sense of smell, does she have one? No. And with that, our great horned owls, their favorite thing to eat is skunks. Because if you can't smell them, skunks are actually a very common black and white animal that nobody else eats at nighttime. And so the owls will eat a lot of skunks, and they keep populations in check for us. Now, Elle here has been one of our captive bred birds. This isn't like one of our normal ones. She was bred in captivity. She's been with me since she was just 14 days old. And she's grown up in my house with me and my family and my children. So don't think that every bird of prey is going to act like this for us. Now, all of our birds of prey here are property of the federal government. So you're not allowed to pick up and have a feather or touch with them. And this time of year, we've had several messages on social media. We have white-tailed deer that are having fawns. Sometimes the weather comes and knocks animals out of nest. You need to contact your local game warden or conservation police officer through TWRA or you need to contact the local wildlife rehabilitator. TWRA has their own website and they have it listed on there. Do not pick up wild animals. You need to let them live naturally in the world. So, good sense of vision, excellent hearing, not a sense of smell though. And that's where when we look at this face, you can see the extra set of eyelids. Because remember, the difference between snakes and lizards has nothing to do with legs. We have legless lizards. And so when we do one of the Zoom meetings later in July, I'll make sure that we'll go over that again and be able to cover the differences between snakes and lizards. So this is Elle, our Eurasian Eagle Owl. She is also being used and trained for what we call abatement. Abatement is when you use a bird of prey to deter. Imagine we could go to like a golf course where the Canada geese are aggravating it, instead of spraying chemicals or noisemakers, I get out this animal and I let her open up her wings, fly around a little bit, every goose will take off. So that's what's special about her. We're working with Amber Falls Winery in their vineyards because sometimes the turkeys will get too much on their grapes. And so we fly this animal around for us. Now, boys and girls, I hope you've enjoyed this the best way that we can during this current condition. Miss Stephanie and I will be hosting 2 different meetings online to where if you have questions for me, you can ask questions about the animals and we'll be able to reach and do an interactive there. And also, Miss Stephanie will be able to help you get any of the books for the summer for us. So for those of you, if you've seen me before, thank you for signing in. If you're new to me, I'm Bob Tarter with Animalogy. I do wildlife programs in over 10 states. Before all this happened, we would do about 250 libraries during the summer, and I do about 300 schools during the school year. But considering what is happening and the uncertainty of what is happening in the future, parents, we will be able to start doing more online videos. And for the homeschooling audience out there, if you have a specific thing that you need a video on, contact us and we're there. Animalogy.com. You can email me, bob@animalogy.org, or you can find us on social media. So thank you all for joining in our program today. Again, keep up with your reading. Got to keep those brains going over this time. And I hope to see you as soon as I can in person. So thank you all very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.